Hey guys, it is Debbie Potts, and I wanted to try to do a short video on just to show you about how we figure out your heart rate zones, your fuel source during various intensities when I run the PNOE metabolic testing assessment, as well as a resting metabolic rate, what we look at. So on this picture, you can see if you're watching the YouTube channel, we can find what fat to carbohydrates you're burning. If you listen to my recent solo podcasts, you'll be able to learn more about your RER, respiratory exchange ratio, and your 0.7 would be fat, and then 1.0 RER is carbohydrates. So this is someone's exercise test. You can see as we go, the blue line's carbohydrate starts to increase as we increase the intensity every minute. You can see that fat is high around here, and then we start to drop down. And then look at what this is, the metabolic crossover point. We talk about that switching, metabolic switching, moving from fat to the main fuel source to carbohydrates. You can see it starts to kind of dance together. Oh, I want to be fat. I want to be carbs. And then you can see up here, he keeps fighting, staying fat, and carbohydrates are increasing, but the switch isn't till about, right, actually here, where that blue line comes up. And then we can see on this lower chart that looks more complicated, but we've got heart rate, watts, or speed. This was a treadmill test, carbohydrates, and fat. And I keep talking about this because I hear every day on other podcasts, social media. I only look at Instagram really, and just getting blogs in my inbox about zone 2 training. And then there's other people just talk about sprint training. We need not to generalize. This is what everyone needs to do. How much zone 2 you need, or how much sprint intervals in zone 5, and how much zone 4, which would be more your HIIT interval training, that is going to vary based on what you have been doing. What is your current fitness program? What have you not been doing? What are your goals? What is your test results? Look at here. So you can see heart rate for this person. Nice test we did. We increased the speed every minute based on a personalized parameter check. So we created a protocol based on the individual's RPE, and we did a little calculation based on Daniel Cronbach's formula. Now, you can see the fat usage is high around here. So this is probably what we'll find out when I do his zoning. Where is his zone 1, recovery? Where is his zone 2, where he's burning the most amount of calories and fat calories? And then where is the top of his zone 2, where he switches fuel source to carbohydrate in his VT1? So we'll be able to see that on a test. And then I can see what happens with his breathing. So it's also a breath analysis, because remember, all this is measured just from heart rate strap, but a face mask on measuring oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. So we can see in this example of the fat usage going down, carbohydrates is the purple. You can see that comes up, and this is a great picture of the colors changing based on intensity. And we can also look at his breathing frequency at these higher rates, his volume of oxygen and carbon dioxide here, and we can see the total calories and fat calories, and I can change what's shown on these graphs. Heart rate is going up, and he reached a peak of 175. So that would be his VO2 max. And then we can see RER, fuel source, and then heart rate and oxygen and carbon dioxide. So that is a raw data. And then we get a report from this. So if you want to know where you should train, what zones you are needing to do more time in to reach your goals, if it's body composition, fat loss, weight loss, or if it's performance gains or longevity, that you want to improve your VO2 max, because we hear it's a sign of longevity, what is the best way for you to train? This person thought they were doing HIIT training, but really based on where their zone 2 is and how high his metabolic crossover point is, he's been doing great at zone 2. So this client, I would have do a little bit more sprint work and get at higher heart rates. And recovery, because we found his recovery was not as optimal as it should be. So I'm going to train him to do his zone 4, zone 5 sprint interval training in zone 5, his 30-second sprints, but make sure he comes all the way back down to about 110 to 120 heart rate before he comes back up, because we want to work on recovery and then go hard again. Recovery, go hard again. That is HIIT training. So the people that think they're doing interval training, even in the swimming pool, people are going hard and then they rest 5 seconds and go again. That's not interval training. That's going to be probably your zone 3 training. So we want to look at that big picture of what are you doing for your training and what could you be doing differently? And then we look at your goals and your body composition and your nutrition and figure out blood chemistry markers ideally and figure out a plan. So if you're into longevity, let's test and not guess how you should train. Not everyone should just do sprints, because I know people are doing sprints. Their zone 2, their peak fat burning was really, really low. But if they don't need to lose weight and they're already at their ideal body weight and their body composition's great, well, maybe they don't need zone 2. Maybe they just need to do the sprint interval training, making sure they go zone 5 to zone 1. So see how it's very personalized. It's not a one size fits all approach. So everybody that's talking online to do this, to do that, and then the trends will change again. It is not everyone needs to do the exact same thing. Maybe it's a template and then we course correct. We experiment, we try. If it doesn't work, you've tried it a month and you don't see results, well, then that's not the right approach for you. So that's just guessing. If you want to test and not guess, we look at this. Now, next topic is nutrition. We've all been talking about protein, muscle health, carnivore, a food elimination diet, 0 carb, 50 grams of carbs a day or lower for keto, carnivore 0 grams. But now we hear a trend, but it's not a trend because it's based on people that were very strict, but they're also doing high intensity interval sprint training. So you can see when we are working at these high heart rates, and you're doing sprint training, you're not burning fat, you're burning carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are stored in the muscle and liver glycogen. We're using that muscle glycogen for fuel. So to only eat protein and 0 carbohydrates isn't going to give you that performance gain or that ability to go hard when you need to if you're doing sprint interval training. And as we listen to what Dr. Stacy Sims has said for the peri and postmenopausal female athlete, as we age, we are already good at zone 2. We are already metabolically flexible at birth. We are better. Females are better than males at burning fat at these lower intensities in fat oxidation. So men versus women, recommendations should be different. Different ages, women in different phases of our hormonal life are going to be different. And blood chemistry panel, genetics, are you more insulin resistant, carb intolerant as myself? So I had to time my nutrition around the exercise so I can use it, the fuel. So figuring out what to eat, when, why, how, matching your fueling with your training, looking at your macros. You can go to Ketogrinds and do a body composition analysis, but this is all just math. We want to test, get a caliper test or the body scan thing. And then nutritionally, you can look at Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She has free copy of the Lyon protocol on her website. So go to drgabriellelyon.com, I think it is. And this is nice 20-something page handout you can download on the Lyon protocol. Importance of protein, muscle, the driver of your longevity, quality amino acids, applying it to your life, balance, carbs, fats, proteins. So great information, free to you. And my new 30-day the Holistic Method 30-day group online program, I'm taking information from here. I'm taking information from Dr. Stacy Sims for my aging female athletes as myself, and from my Pinoe, and then Dr. Ken Berry. He has a free, updated Proper Human Diet Guidebook. It says 2020, but I just got the email. This has more information too. You can also look at Nutrition by Judy, and she has a carnivore healing diet, carnivore cure, for those that have metabolic health issues. If you have gut issues, mold toxicity, skin issues, that is when we go into strict carnivore, as not to do with your exercise. Proper Human Diet, you can learn from Dr. Ken Berry. He has hundreds of videos on his YouTube channel. But just to read the 11 concepts for Proper Human Diet, we all agree, and I know Brad Kearns has a great handout on this: nutrient density. Carbohydrate knob. Now remember, his audience is metabolically unhealthy. My audience is a fit and active athlete, endurance athlete that is also an aging athlete. We are exercising, and so we need to take some of this and adjust it for when you're exercising more. So nutrient density, there are no essential carbohydrates or sugars for human health. Carbohydrate intake is optional and adjustable. Zero carb is an option for you unhealthy, inactive people. Some people don't need as many carbs. It depends on your intensity. So don't eat them because you got permission. Eat them because you earned them and you're trying to do those 20-second sprints correctly. Inflammatory foods. We do this as practitioners, a 90-day anti-inflammatory diet or elimination diet. And I know his wife, Nisha, just did a 90-day carnivore diet and shared how she's reintroducing foods that work for her. Nisha approved foods. I love that. Sensitivities can show up as gut issues, skin, joint pain, mental health, and more. Remember, it's N=1 experiment. And I say this all the time. This is the gold standard. So you can pay for the lab tests that I run, the functional labs. They cost money, but if you can't afford it to do a Zoomer test or food sensitivity test, just eliminate the food and pay attention to how you feel. But you have to go 90 days. Number 4, satiety. Understanding the sense of fullness, satiety, getting your hormones that regulate your satiety signals, your leptin and ghrelin. Some people need to relearn what full feels like. I know when I'd not pay attention to what I was eating, if I was eating really fast, eating in that sympathetic nervous system mode, fight or flight, if I was eating empty calories as carbohydrates for me, if I ate bagels, or if you have chips, tortilla chips, even if they're grain-free, I can eat the whole bag because they don't fill me up. But often we can eat mindlessly and eat that whole bag without knowing it because we're just eating, not paying attention. So learning how to feel full by getting the hormones that work for you, signal you that I've had enough, is partially what you are eating, how you are eating, you slowly and mindfully chewing your food, paying attention to what you're eating, not being distracted watching TV at the same time or driving your car. So satiety, hormones, fasting into the diet. We've been doing a lot of this, and I'm just rewriting my 30-day group online program. My previous program was all about fasting, intermittent fasting. But if I'm working with people that are fit and active, I'm not going to have them do a 16-8 fasting feeding window. I'm going to have them do a 12-hour overnight fast. Maybe we'll go to 15 hours. But what we know today than a few years ago is going to be different for the female athlete and the fit and active individual. So fasting could just be 12 hours to 15 hours. If you're exercising, you don't necessarily need, which is another topic I'm going to record on the benefits of cell autophagy coming from exercise are similar to the benefits you get from fasting. So those that want the easy way out, not paying attention to what they're eating and just doing long fasts to heal, still are not dealing with that, maybe a demon of their poor relationship with food and the reason they are metabolically unhealthy. Just not eating, I found years ago with people that have addictive personalities, still are not dealing with their emotions to why they are eating and the connection to food and how that makes them feel and trauma. And maybe they over exercise instead. So we still need to look at the why. Why are we eating? And fasting is beneficial for fat loss, hormone balance, and inflammation. But we also need to work on our relationship with food. All right, ancestral appropriateness. And then you can look at number 7, avoiding factory products. Number 8, adequate minerals. Fight the fad diets. All these different trends. You always come back to what did our ancestors eat? And then people always say, well, they didn't live very long. Well, they probably got killed by a wild animal. But we want to look at the fad diets. Also, I want to look at your ancestral background, look at your genetics. Sugar and carb addiction. As I said, eating bagels for me or eating starchy stuff, I don't feel full. So I will overeat. I'm not a sugary person. Maybe back when I was a kid, I used to love red licorice. I know now the last 15 years since I've been lower and eating, I'd rather not say low carb. I eat clean and I pay attention to nutrient density, but it's not going to be sugary food. So low carb just means eating real food, nutrient density. Okay. And then price versus quality. So this is Proper Human Diet on Dr. Ken Berry's website. So you can look to this free resource. And then Dr. Lyon has a great resource on hers, as I said, the copy of the Lyon Protocol. But I want to go over real quick and then we'll wrap it up. Here's a great chart that I just did a podcast on protein amino acids. And I want to bring this up before I close my computer for the day. We all are talking about prioritizing protein, muscle health, muscle-centric medicine. Muscle is the organ of longevity. So we need to eat enough protein. Now, we were just talking about this on the podcast I recorded. To eat 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, or at least 100 grams of protein a day, is challenging. So that is why we often need to supplement and take essential amino acids, or the perfect amino that we just talked about in my show. Carbohydrates, around 130 grams a day, but you match it. Dr. Lyon's suggestion is, say you do 30 to 50 grams of protein a meal, your carbohydrate would be 30 grams, right? Fat is going to vary per person. Now, this is totally opposite those have been doing keto. Nutritional ketosis is the goal, to be burning fat. But to be in nutritional ketosis, if you're just trying to lose weight, might not be the solution, because we want to just not focus on fat loss. We want to focus on improving muscle health, building muscle. So a lot of times people diet and they take out low carb and they're not prioritizing protein. They're losing weight, but they're also losing lean body mass. And as we know, as we age, what is the biggest concern as you get older? Watch your parents. Sarcopenia. I see my mom, since my dad died last year, she's lost, 20 pounds, and she's skin and bones. She's always overweight my whole life. Well, she didn't hear that, but she's been heavier. And now she was a size 16, size 14 forever. Now she's down to a size 10 because of not eating and muscle loss and alcohol has been lower. So fat is where you want to vary. Now, this is Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, and I've really been trying this myself. Again, N=1 experiment. I don't diet. I just focus on eating my protein. So for a man, this is an example, 20-pound man, he's going to need 20 grams of protein. So if his example, they were looking at someone that, I think he was trying to maintain weight or gain muscle weight, depends. And your fat is 9 calories a gram, protein and carbohydrates are 4 calories a gram. So you can figure out your calories. Resting metabolic rate, we ideally test, as with my equipment, PNOE, metabolic testing, we find out how many calories you need for rest. And then we can figure out if you're trying to lose weight, maintain weight, or gain weight. So there's an example in here. So she talks about that. And I just wanted to highlight in here, she was talking about something I think you need to listen to or read. So anyone with an hour or more of daily intense exercise may need 200 to 500 more calories each day. It all depends on the amount and the intensity of this is for men, daily exercise. These extra calories are discretionary calories because you can choose which category of macronutrients you want to add for the extra calories. The main part I was getting to is this. If you are a bodybuilder, you may want to add more protein. If you participate in high intensity interval training, as I went back to the example of a high heart rate, you're going up to close to your VO2 max, 160 to 175 for that person, you may need more carbohydrates. Not crap food. It's real food, nature's carbohydrates. So if you're a bodybuilder, if you're trying to gain muscle, you might need more protein than that 100, whatever your ideal body weight is in goal and protein. If you want to do more HIIT training, or you're doing intense single tennis game or any sprint interval type of like hockey or soccer that you're going all out, rest, go hard again, then you might need to adjust your carbohydrate intake. So the final decision is your choice, and it should be based on how you feel and your goals. Ultimately, the decision is a trial and error. So N=1 experiment to find out what works best for you and achieves a stable body weight than you want. So that's men, but is it different for a woman? Not really. So if you are a 140-pound woman who wants to lose 15 pounds, so ideally we do your metabolism test at rest, figure out how many calories you need at rest, figure out how many grams of protein you need based on your ideal body weight. So if you want to weigh 125 pounds, we need to figure out how to get you 125 grams of protein a day. So maybe that's 2 meals with 30, 50 grams, and then you need to add in some essential aminos or that perfect amino we were just talking about in my podcast. How do you figure out your carbohydrates and your fat? Well, Dr. Lyon talks about fat, take her body weight times 0.4 to determine her daily fat intake. So 125 pounds is 0.4 to get 50 grams of fat and 450 calories. Then add in the carbs, 130 grams. So she's talking about fat should be 9 calories times 50 grams. So that's 450 calories of fat. 130 grams of carbs is kind of your starting point. And Endure IQ program I did with Dan Plews, he talks about for athletes going 100 to 130 grams a day for your carbohydrate intake of real food, not crap, right? Not the refined flours. I think you should do wheat-free. Really watch your processed foods. Okay, so 4 calories times 130, that's 520 from carbs. That many calories a day. Now, I know most everyone doesn't want to track what they're eating and track their macros. For my 30-day group program, we will be using at least a week. You need at least a week, but ideally the whole 4 weeks on Chronometer that I connect to my Practice Better program I use for coaching clients. So we get an idea, because you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't measure, we can't tell you how much you should adjust. We need to test. So we should test your metabolism. We should figure out how many calories you're burning in your workout. So what heart rate, intensity. So you can learn more about the leucine threshold in Dr. Lyon's is that 2.5 to 3 grams of each meal. So you can read about this because this is Dr. Donald Layman, his leucine threshold. This is why vegetarians, vegans, you may have a harder time hitting that goal to get the muscle protein synthesis. We need that leucine threshold. So to achieve your protein needs, to optimize muscle protein synthesis, you need to get a minimum of 30 grams, and high end here is 50 is what most people say, at each meal. So you have 3 meals a day. So 30 grams is not magic, and it's not related to the myth that your body can only use 30 grams. The 30 grams, and this is Dr. Donald Layman's research, the 30 grams is simply the amount of protein an average meal that is required to get the 2.5 grams of leucine. The actual amount of leucine differs for individual proteins. So important, whey protein is rich source of leucine. That's why it's popular for bodybuilders. Whey has 11% leucine, while meats have 8.8, soy, wheat, so you can read all that. So you get 3 grams of leucine with the 27 gram of whey protein or 34 grams of beef protein, but it requires 38 grams of soy, 44 grams of wheat, or 50 grams of quinoa. Who's going to eat that much quinoa? So people that think quinoa is high protein, I always think of Vinny Tortorich, what he says about quinoa. For most meals, you may want your protein around 30, 50 grams. That's the sweet spot. That's why everyone talks about the 30 to 50 grams, because that is a sweet spot for muscle protein synthesis. So if we are trying to improve the aging process overall, your future self, not just changing how you look so you look better naked, you look good in your swimsuit, we want to look at muscle health for longevity. So you want to prioritize, plan ahead, Sundays, figure out your meal plan for the week, cook what you can in advance, have it in the freezer, thaw it out in the fridge in advance so you're ready. Most meals you want your protein 30 to 50 grams, a sweet spot for muscle protein synthesis. Research is now showing that especially important time to get that 30 green threshold is first and last meals of the day. So you listen to Dr. Lyon and Dr. Donald Layman talk about this on a couple episodes they have recently on her podcast. So really important. It's not complicated. I don't make fancy meals. I just had tri-tip with some butter and sea salt. Then I had apple and some macadamia nut butter for dessert with some sea salt on that too. So I wanted to go over this. Carbs and fat are going to be adjustable for a person. So I was hired to coach a keto group, but I didn't like the generalization of such high fat and not enough protein. So if you look at the past 15 years in the keto, paleo, keto, carnivore, real food, ancestral health, you'll see the missing link is the protein. So finally, we're back to start with protein, get your carbs that you need based on your exercise intensity, volume, and your age, genetics, and then the rest, you adjust your fat. Okay. So fiber is controversial. There's carnivores say you don't need fiber, you get fiber from your animal-based diet. So I won't go into that. So that's Dr. Gabrielle. You can look at nutrient density. Brad Kearns, we went over his worksheet. He has a nutrient density carnivore score sheet. He's been adding the berries. I don't do beans. I don't do wheat. So I am more carb intolerant based on my genetics. I've shared that with you on other plans. But let's just finish up here. The action plan. First thing you want to do, figure out what your meal planning is, cooking your food, having it ready to go, being organized. Serving size, the fat, carbs, and protein each meal, the amount of fiber she talks about. So you can go to Dr. Gabrielle and get her new book, Forever Young. Go to her website, and then she has an email list that she sends out, this 30-gram meal plan, and she has tons of recipes in the book. Like half of it is meal plan and then exercises. So getting your protein in does take organization because you have to cook most of it and you don't want to buy processed stuff because then you have all the crap with it. So 30 to 50 grams of protein each meal, first and last meal of the day is key. And then maybe you have supplements. And we were just talking about the supplements need to be 10 grams of the perfect aminos. And that will be equivalent to the 30 grams of protein. So if you want to just drink it, get the perfect aminos or Keon aminos or whatever one you like, but just read the profile of the amino acids. So that is on her page. Dr. Lyon, really like what she's doing. So check that out. Good information. And so if you have any questions, if you want to sign up for my program coming up January 2024, let me know. I'll be just taking 30 people for this group program on longevity, focused on prioritizing protein and muscle health, but also looking at how we exercise, and then taking information from Dr. Stacy Sims and Dr. Ken Berry. So Hopefully that helps clear up some things for the fit and active individual who those fit and active people want to be fit and healthy from the inside out as we age. Let me know your questions, comments, interests, and we'll talk soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.